let's bring in some experts who can maybe give us a glimpse into the future. Chris Johnson, CEO, Johnson Research Group, and Matt Maley, Managing Director, Chief Market Strategist, Miller Tabak and Company, and founder of CEO BTFNow.com. Great to see you both. Thank you so much for being with us. Matt, what are you making of this group overall? First of all, NVIDIA, they talk about data centers. They have gaming. The stay-at-home stock has certainly done well.
There's no question. And it's funny because the stock, it was one, I mean, it's a 50% so far this year, but if you go all the way back to the March lows, it's up almost 80%. That's one thing that has me a little bit concerned solely on a short-term basis. You look at the chart; it's starting to get overbought, and so people may not want to be overly aggressive up here, adding new positions or even adding to old positions. Maybe look for a little bit of a pullback before it moves higher, kind of digest that overbought condition. But again, this thing broke out to the upside. One thing I was a little bit worried about because it broke out several weeks ago. And what were these earnings going to come with? Were the stock risen so much so quickly that it wasn't going to be able to see any upside fall through? Well, of course, the earnings came in just fine. Again, the stock hadn't run so much already. The stock would have been up 6, 7, 8% today. It's still up nicely, but again, I just a little worried that it's getting a little bit ahead of itself. And again, I'm not saying sell the stock or certainly not short it, but you might want to let the stock take a breather and look for it to buy it on dips right now.
I see. Buy on some dips. Chris, what are your thoughts on this one, on NVIDIA, and expand it out a little bit where you might see some strength?
You know what? I'm looking at it the same way Greg is. This is a stock that has been a leader of the pack. If you remember last year, you and I were talking about how this was one of my best in breed stocks. It is truly that, best in breed. They continue to innovate, they're moving forward, and they're just absolutely rolling. So I'm with Greg. You buy this on a dip right now. It should be performing a little better with the results they gave us, and it even traded a little lower in the morning. I was expecting some sell the news, and I think you're going to see it, especially as we see the tensions with China kind of rattle around a bit. But I think it's a great stock to buy on the pullback, maybe get 5, 6% from here. And as he said, you don't short it. There are other opportunities right now for breakouts in the semis, just like NVIDIA.
Tell me about names like Cree and Intel. Those were on your list, Chris.
Yeah, you know what? This is the story of two different stocks in the semiconductors. When you look at Cree, it is exactly, I look at it like NVIDIA. It has been a leader over the short term. The stock has just gone through the roof after that March bottom. We've seen it lead the sector higher. It is overbought right now. If you look at it, it's one of those trades that I'm looking maybe around the $48 level. You get back in, it's pulling back below its 20-day moving average. That is the trader's trend line that I watch right now, and that is ruling a lot of the semiconductors. So that's kind of the trader's play. It pulled down 5% yesterday. It's up slightly today. Look for another 4% to the downside. You grab it, and I think you get 12 to 18% to the upside again. Intel, on the other hand, Nicole, is a longer-term play. It's the dividend play in the group. It's a safer balance sheet, makes people feel good because it's a growth in income. And if we do see a slowdown in technology, income that is going to be a little more of a key for some of the long-term players. I love the fact that it's breaking above its 200-day moving average. It's a slow mover. Volatility is lower than a lot of the fast movers in the group. So if you're looking for something to hold through a possible second half that's going to be a little weaker, I think Intel's the place to be.
So Intel, a good longer-term play, dividend, exactly. And Cree, buy it on a pullback. Matt, tell me more. I know you were watching names like AMD, for example, which has had a nice run up since the March lows, right? I mean, over the last 3 months, it's up about 12%. You had AMD and Broadcom and Micron on your list, Matt.
Yeah, the two that I like here, Chris was mentioning how Intel broke out a little bit here. That's very positive. And because it had been stuck in a little bit of a sideways range for several weeks after a nice rally in March and early April. And the same thing with we're seeing with AMD. It saw a big run. It ran up to $59, pulled back, got up to 59 again, and pulled back one more time. Now it's rallying for a third time. We need to see it break above that 59 level. If it does, it's really going to see the kind of breakout that will give it another leg of momentum. The one concern, though, is that it's also forming an ascending triangle pattern. So if it rolls over in a major way, that could be a problem. So it's kind of a critical time. This stock really needs to move above it. The same thing is with Broadcom. It's just like Intel, was stuck in a sideways range. It's getting up very near its 200-day moving average. Unlike Intel, it hasn't hasn't broken it yet, but that's okay. It doesn't have to do it at the same time as Intel. But if it can get above 285 and break that 200-day moving average, that's going to give it an injection of momentum. I mean, and one of the things we see a lot right now is, everybody's been talking about how the mega cap tech names have been so narrow. It's been a narrow rally. Well, if some of these stocks start to break out above key resistance levels, it's going to broaden that rally up very nicely. So that's one thing I'm looking for there. Oh, and you mentioned Micron. To be honest with you, it's one I hear a lot of positive stories about on a fundamental side, but it actually hasn't been acting that well since the beginning of May, and it's actually formed a head and shoulders top. It hasn't broken its neckline yet, but if you see much more downside, that's one who's actually losing some momentum. So be a little bit careful on Micron, at least on a technical basis.
Which one's your favorite, Matt? Matt, which one's your favorite that you take a look at it every day and say, I really want to get in this more?
Well, I got, it's funny, on a fundamental basis, I suppose it would be Advanced Micro, but Broadcom, the thing is, whenever a stock stays at a tight range like Broadcom has for the last, really, it's been 5-6 weeks, whenever you break out of an extended sideways range, it really kicks in momentum. And I think, at least on a near-term, intermediate-term basis, especially with the way the algos are so influence the market so much, and they're heavily momentum-based, you're going to get the kind of momentum kick if it can break above its 200-day moving average. They really could give the stock a nice run to the upside.
And Chris, you final thoughts on maybe some of your favorites or what you might be expecting?
You know what? If I'm an aggressive trader, which that's where I tend to be, especially with the semiconductors, I got to stick with Cree. There's an additional kicker here right now. There's not a lot of short interest that's been coming into the semiconductor sector because it has been leading the market. And that's what we want to see, a continuation of that leadership. Cree continues to attract short sellers. That means we get a short squeeze. If it pulls back a little bit here and starts to jump up again, you're not only going to get the buyers that are in from the technical perspective and another breakout, but you're going to get that short covering rally. I love having that kicker behind it. So I'm sticking with Cree in terms of my more aggressive play here.
Yeah, and it has had a nice run. I mean, just in the 1 month, it's up 37%, and year to date up about 12%. So still well in the green. Nice to see you both. Thank you so much. Great breakdown. Chris Johnson, CEO, Johnson Research Group, and Matt Maley, Managing Director, Chief Market Strategist, Miller Tabak and Company, and founder and CEO of BTFNow.com. Thank you both.